church. You see, I wanted to obey Jesus. Now, back then I had a lot of bills. I had some debt and different things, but I made sure that I tithed. And I did it as obedience to God. And then I got married, and talking to Gwen about tithing, and she was not tithing from her own personal income at the time. And the thought of tithing, the more money you make, you think, oh wow, this is really a lot. But what I tell people, well, tithes is every dime you make, just give a penny. We all can give a penny from a dime, right? So just apply that to any number.
You can also tell them, just, we'll pray that you'll make less. so you can tithe.
That's like some of my guys complaining about taxes. Why do I got to pay taxes? I said, you don't have to pay any taxes. Just don't work. Problem solved. Just sit at home and eat chips all day until your mom kicks you out. And so I was tithing from my income, my paycheck, and got married. Well, I was about to get married, and money was really low. Just because you tithe doesn't mean you're going to have, rolling around in the dough, right? It's an act of obedience to give money to the Lord. That's what it is. And so here I am a week before I got married, and no money. Didn't even have a savings account. Wasn't sure, how I was going to support. Kind of like Nathan's testimony there, And I thought, okay, I can scrape enough money. This is my honeymoon, okay? The wedding was taken care of. We had it at a church. People brought food. It's nice and simple, right? We didn't invest $20,000 for a two-hour wedding ceremony. It was all done by the ladies of the church, the different ones. It was great. I said, I have enough money for one night stay in a hotel. That's it. That's all I can offer. It didn't sound very appeasing. Very appealing, excuse me. It didn't appease very well either. And so, here I am. And then, somebody gave me an early wedding gift. It was a week's stay in a beautiful place. A week's stay in Colonial Williamsburg, in a place that I never could have even afforded to stay at. It was wonderful. That was Mike and Pat Clifford gave me that, gave Gwen and I that. And boy, that was right on time, wasn't it? That was right what I needed. And then time went on. We got married, and she said, we can't tithe. Do we tithe? 10% of both of our incomes? It's too much money. And we're looking at our bills. We can't do it. But we said it's better to obey God. So we tithe. And sometimes we had $20 left at the end of the checks and everything, but we made it. And then found out she's going to have pregnant with our first son, Patrick. And I was reading in the Word, and I was reading Psalm maybe 34, 36, and it just hit me that I knew that she was supposed to stay home with the kids, with Patrick. So I went and told her what I felt, and same thing. You kidding? How can we do this? On paper, it just didn't make any sense, and we weren't going to have enough, right? But the scripture that I read said, if you be obedient, you shall dwell in the land, and truly you'll be fed. You'll dwell in the land, and you'll be fed. That spoke to me of God's provision. If I was obedient to His voice, I was going to be able to dwell in the land. That means I wasn't going to be homeless. I was going to dwell somewhere. He had a place for me, and verily I'll be fed, right? A place to stay and something to eat. It's the basics, isn't it? That's what God's promise was to me. So I said, look, I finally just said, if we have to eat beans, we're going to do it. We're going to obey God. And so that was 11 years ago, and God has provided every day since then. You see, there may come a point where you're going to have to do what I did. It's you and God. God's going to bring you to a place in your life that's going to require obedience. It's going to require trust. And then you are going to see the good hand of our good God and how He supplies. You see? And you know what? We only eat beans when we want to. You know, we were able to make it without just eating beans. But you see, I was determined and I was steadfast in what I believed God spoke to me. So, when God speaks to you, many times it's like God says to you, okay, I want to go to the other side. Remember Jesus got in the boat? We're going to the other side. Well, God can speak something to you, can speak a promise to you that He wants you to do something. But many times between the promise and where you're at, it's going to be a test. It's going to be a test of obedience, right? The trial of your faith. It's going to be a trial there. Very rarely is it just God says, I want you here, and then it's just smooth sailing. Many times, the clearer the voice of God is to you, the more that you can rest assured that there's going to be some opposition. It's like this woman, this lady married a man because she knew that God had spoke to her for them to get married. And so when they were doing some marriage counseling, she told, they had just confirmation after confirmation, even in themselves, that they were to get married. And they told that to the preacher who was doing the counseling. He said, well, you need to really hold on to that because there's probably going to be some real testing there. Because you know. Because that way when you're in the middle of the test, you can say, God, I know you called us to be together. God, I know that this is your will for my life. You know, it's like God's promise is an anchor to our soul. And then it's an anchor to our soul that when we go through that storm from there to the promise, from where we're at to the promise, we'll be able to lean back on that and say, God, you've said in your word that you're going to do this. I said to God, God, you said that if I was obedient, verily I would dwell in the land and be fed. And God did it. He kept His promise. Now, David says, I was young and I'm now old. And I've never seen the righteous forsaken nor seed begging bread.